afternoon. Welcome to today's Race Academy webinar series, episode 34. Obviously, I'm not Matt Race. My name's Marissa. I'm just filling in for him today. We have a lovely guest with us today, Shirley Lynn. She's a friend of Race and a former colleague of ours. We're very pleased to have her with us today. Shirley now works for 3Shape in Australia, and she is the head of their training and education. So I'm just going to pass over to Shirley to get started. Our topic today is about intraoral scanning. Some of you may have spoken with Shirley in the past if we've done any training or troubleshooting with you on scanners, but it's also a lot of great content if you're not sure and you haven't yet been using an intraoral scanner. So over to you, Shirley.
Thanks, Marissa. Hey, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. So like Marissa said, today our session is to help explore the benefits of investing in an intraoral scanner and embark on a digital journey in dentistry. So we understand that this decision is crucial and can have a significant impact on your practice's efficiency, patient experience, and overall success. So we'll discuss the various advantages of intraoral scanners and demonstrate how the technology that we have now can revolutionize your practice. And by the end, I hope to provide you with the knowledge and confidence needed to make a decision and making that step on moving into digital dentistry and starting with an intraoral scanner. And of course, at the end of my presentation, we'll always have some time for some questions and answers. All right, so we will get started. Now, as we experience it, there are at least 6 main reasons. So a part of the cost saving, so of course you're gonna save on impression material, shipping and storage costs, limit retakes with the improved digital accuracy. So there's tools for you to use that'll reduce that. You can send your impressions straight away to your lab to also reduce those retakes and assess those scans together, like reduce lab fees. So save time and see more patients, improve patient experience and increase case acceptance, and also ease to introduce new treatments. So of course, I'm going to go through all of these points in a little bit more detail and highlight the benefits in each of these parts. So reduce mess and models. So you want to save space and money on material. So taking the impression and getting materials above the lips, you know, gloves, trays, bibs. So this is when you're taking your alginate impressions and also your PVS impressions. We all know that can get a little bit messy. It gets all over the trays, the patient's face, the bibs. And then, of course, taking it out of the patient's mouth can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes as well. You've got your mixing bowls. So you're going to be saving your alginate impression material. So no more cleaning of the alginate impression bowls, the spatulas. And again, that can get a little bit messy, getting the alginate dust all on the tables. And also making sure that the consistency is right for your alginate impressions as well. And then when you're going into, you know, doing your stone models, so preparing the plaster for that material, and then messy lab areas with all the plaster dust and hardened residue on the counters, tops, sinks. You can get your drains blocked with this plaster material. And then plaster all over your vibration machines. And then you've also got your trimmers that can get super, super loud and distracting in the surgeries. And again, that also can cause a lot of mess around that lab area. So here, again, you are making your models. You've got a dirty finger there. But yeah, a lot of the table gets really messy. And if you've got a plaster room, you know that can get a little bit messy. So we're trying to reduce that with intraoral scanners. So you're also going to save storage space and money on your cartridges for your PVS impressions, your light body, your heavy body, your trays as well. So no more fitting trays and disposable trays, trying on different trays and having that whole box full of trays. Again, storage. Taking out your stone models out of the impressions, where you can risk sometimes also breaking those models and then having to retake them again. And then If you do ortho, a lot of those, analog ortho models that you keep stored takes up a lot of space, as you can see in that image as a great example. And of course, I know, some of you probably have a whole drawer full of your lab sheet forms. So again, storage space, you're going to reduce your lab sheet forms because again, all of that is going to go digital. But just to highlight, of course, some dentists, you will still be using some of those materials because you do, your in-house retainers or even your mouth guards maybe. So without having to store your stone models, you've got digital impressions stored on your device or backed up on an external hard drive. Much like digital photos now, you've got them all stored on your phones and your computers instead of having like a whole photo album. There are three main file types of digital impressions. So you've got your DCM, which is more of your realistic colors, your PLY, which is more of your basic color representations. And also there's also your STL, which is your mono digital file type. So STL is probably going to be the most common one that is used amongst all your labs and is accepted amongst almost every lab, basically. So I'm going to show you a quick time comparison of analog impressions and intraoral scanning of a full mouth impression. And of course, we all know, there are different variables with material set times and also the type of case. But just watching through this full mouth impression, you can see that she's doing her lower arch impression, almost finished, and she's still squeezing in probably her heavy body into that impression tray. So just watching through that, you can see in the Trios scan, she's actually now moved up to the upper and we're still on the lowers, waiting for their impression material to set. All right, so she's done with the upper now. And now she can move on to her bite. So now that the software has both of those arches, we can align a bite after you've taken that. So you can see the bites are aligned and we're still on our lower analog impression setting. So I am going to skip through this. Now that's going at a 10 times speed. But the Trios, this intraoral scanner impression is finished. And they're still waiting on that set time for the lowers. And I'm just going to skip through and it's going to just give you an overview of the time between the two. So in your analog impression, you can see here what they've timed it as. It took the whole process 11 minutes and 38 seconds, whereas with an intraoral scanner, this Trios one to be specific, it only took, just over a minute for a full mouth scan. Now, I know some of you probably use triple tray impressions that are also very quick, but the lab will always say they always prefer a full arch impression to assess. Triple tray impressions are fast, easy in the chair, but in the lab can affect the fabrication accuracy and result in you spending that saved time on adjusting the crown during your insertions. So when using an intraoral scanner, it will only take you, a couple of more seconds just to get a full arch scan to give the lab more references to create a more accurate lab work for you. Now going into saving time to see more patients. So save time and see more patients. Saving time is not only a matter of comparing the actual scan time with impression taking, it's also a matter of including the time saving for preparing the impressions, taking and retakes, where that time can be used to see more patients. So a reduction in manual errors that can be easily fixed. So errors can be fixed so easily without retaking a whole new impression. And then all you need to do is just do segmented scanning. So let's say, for example, you've taken a scan, but you've then realized you haven't got enough prep, or you want to clean up that prep without doing a full analog impression again. All you need to do is just remove what you've changed originally out of the full scan that you've taken. And then you just replace that area with the new surface that you've adjusted in the mouth. And that's all. So just making it easy to have those fixes digitally. Now, dental assistants, hygienists, OHTs can all scan. An intraoral scanner is essentially just a camera. So the use of the scanner can be done by practically anybody. There's no legal requirements for you to be a medical practitioner. So a lot of practices that I've visited, and even myself, and I spent some time being a DA, I actually did all of the scans for my dentists. And even if you just want to do some of those more simpler ones where it doesn't need, you know, checking the prep areas, you can get your dental assistant to do a retainer scan. So those are quite easy. You can just do a scan of the upper and just double check it with them. And then you can spend more time again seeing more patients when you are moving those simpler tasks of impression taking to a assistant or a hygienist or an oral health therapist. Send through digital impressions almost instantly to labs for feedback. So I would have mentioned, so just again, you can send your digital impressions straight away to the labs. Using your conventional impression techniques, you can wait, you know, until the next day or even a few days for the case to reach the lab, and then they come back to you with feedback and then letting you know, oh, actually, your impression's not good enough, you might need to re-prep, and then having to bring that patient back in, where instead of doing that, you can send it straight away to your lab. They can give you that feedback. They can calculate if it is enough or if it's good enough as an impression, and then let you know while the patient's still there at the practice. Now, there are efficient impression taking workflows. So one of the really popular impression workflows is a pre-preparation workflow. Now, this can help in reducing downtime. So a lot of the times a dentist will take a full mouth scan before they've done any prep. Now, because during this time, they're just waiting for either the local anesthetic to kick in. So they use that downtime to even maybe get the nurse to take that scan, and you can write notes at the same time. And that way, so many things are done at the same time to reduce that downtime. Another reason why pre-preparation workflow is also great is because it allows you to have a file of the patient before you've done any prep, and with that same file, you can send that to the lab. They have a record of what it looked like pre-prep, and then you can, what the software normally does with all scanners is it uses that same file that you've taken of it pre-prep, it copies that over, and then all you do is just fill it in with the preparation. So here is just a quick little visual. So I've got the one for there scanned in, and that's the tooth that we're going to prep. So I've got that file there with the original anatomy. And then what the software will do is, because you've marked that one tooth and it knows where your critical working area is, it's going to cut out that original part of the anatomy. And all you need to do is scan your prep back in after you've finished your prep. So that way you can focus on your preparation impression area as well. But you don't have to do the whole impression again, because essentially nothing else in the arch you should have changed. Now, another workflow that I would think is also great with digital is your implant restorative workflow with your scan bodies. So there's no open trays anymore. There's no drilling of the trays. And again, your PVS impressions, especially with implants, can really get wedged into the patient's mouth and create that discomfort. Now, with implant restorations, again, with the working arch, we're going to scan the emergence profile, where you can see in that picture there. So you scan the emergence profile, and then what it will ask you to do as a part of that digital workflow, it will then ask you to pop in a scan body and then scan the scan body with your scanner for that digital impression. And then with both of these workflows, all you need to do is just scan in your opposing and then your bite like normal. So yeah, great workflows, creates just a simpler, easier workflow, less discomfort as well for the patients. So quicker turnaround time and better infection control. There is more, I mean, as you know, with analog impressions, there's more manual handling of analog impressions and a longer workflow to get the job back to you. So you've got trying trays, handling of impression guns and cartridges that aren't autoclavable. So your analog impressions, as you can see, the workflow is you take your impression, you clean, pack it, do your lab sheet, you ask the courier to pick it up, and with the delivery of the courier, sometimes, you know, cases do get lost in transit as well. But once it gets to the lab, they then also have to clean it. They pull the models up, and then they scan it to do your CAD designs, and then mill and finish, and then pack, deliver, and then you go into insertion. Now with digital impressions, you scan, get sent straight to the lab. They do your CAD design, mill, finish, you pack and pick up, deliver, and then insert. And then if you ever, you know, in future get into your chair side, you do your impression, you design it yourself, and then you insert it that same day even. So deliver greater accuracy. So reduce rejection when you take traditional impressions, you send it off, and a few days later, you may come back to you rejecting the impression. So the time and convenience and the aggravation for not only the patient, but for you as the dentist is reduced. So you capture thousands of images per second. Scanners capture shape and contours up to 6.9 microns. You've also got better observation to assess your critical areas, because the software will allow you to zoom into your prep, rotate it around in all the angles around all of that, where in an impression, in an analog impression, it's very hard for you to look as closely and not in a inverted kind of physical area. So not inverted, basically. It limits the retakes with improved digital accuracy and the analysis tools. So a lot of the software with scanners come with further analysis tools to help you assess that, to also reduce retaking any of those impressions. But if you are retaking them, the patient is still available for you in the chair. Now, the Institute of Digital Dentistry did a large study, so one of the largest studies on intraoral scanners on an international level in 2022. So 81.9% of survey participants believe intraoral scanners were more accurate than traditional casting methods. And then more than 3/4, you can see 78.8% have used intraoral scanners in their daily work. So it is very, very prominent in the world right now in dentistry. And more than 3/4, 85.6% use digital impressions with intraoral scanners for fabricating fixed prosthetic appliances. Now, this was based on 1,072 dentists, specialists of the responses, and it came from, they said, 109 different countries. So conventional versus digital impressions. So when making changes to practices, I know a lot of dentists really look for the gold standard comparison. Now, out of this study, 92% of the studies show that it's the same level of clinical acceptability. So the same clinical acceptability shows that studies have found digital impressions to be as good as the gold standard of conventional impressions taking method. And then 67% of the studies show digital impressions are more accurate. So better in accuracy, which is a key factor to optimize your workflows for both lab and clinicians. So I mentioned there were analysis tools that would help enhance these. So a lot of scanners will include tools to elevate your assessment on the impressions and your prep work. So this will help you assess if, this, for example, is a clearance and contact analysis tool to help see if you've got enough occlusal clearance that you've prepped. And if you haven't, you can always, like I said, in digital, you can always go back to your original scan, trim away the original surface, and then rescan it after you've re-prepped it. So clearance and contact is a really good way to reduce retaking, getting the getting your physical impressions sent out and then having to bring them back in. So this just reduces that. Another tool that is quite helpful is direction for undercuts. And again, this just reduces having to let the lab tell you that your impression or your prep work isn't good enough. So you have tools to show direction. And then you can see like there's values on there, and there's areas where it will show you if there are any undercuts that you can look into, and then re-prep, and then you just have to rescan instead of taking a whole full new impression with your analog. So intraoral scanners are involving, and their use in shade matching can provide better aesthetic outcomes, especially if they are supplemented with your visual shade matching. So in this case study in 2022, in figure 3, compared 3 shade selection methods and 3 intraoral scanners. Precision, reliability, or repeatability is a measure of consistency. So for color measuring instruments, precision reflects their ability to reproduce the same result in measurements that are made under the same conditions as the original measurement. So that assessed the repeatability of intraoral scanners in comparison to visual shade matching, or the Vita Easy Shade tool. So, and it reported similar findings, with the scanner showing similar or even superior repeatability. So further development of these systems for clinical use is warranted and could definitely serve as a valuable tool for material selection and restoration design in aesthetics and restorative dentistry. But of course, you do still need to follow your regular protocols for shade taking. So these are going to be probably the more obvious ones, but you want to elevate your patient experience with improved comfort. So no more choking or gagging discomfort. Having that full mouth impression material can be really uncomfortable. You can take breaks without ruining impression accuracy and retaking impressions. So especially if you've got those sensitive patients with the gag reflex, you can do with digital impressions, you can take scans section by section and then give them breaks, and then it'll just pick up where you've left off and then re-stitch in the rest of the arch for you. So it is less invasive with your digital impressions, and then just the lower resistance in treatment for all ages, because I know, a lot of patients don't like doing your physical impressions, and they would much prefer something more comfortable, like, an intraoral scanner. So kids, they can be very apprehensive about your alginate impressions, where you can just take a scan for them and it's quite easy for them to take in. So 4 out of 5 studies show that patients choose digital impressions. So the preference for digital impressions is another indication that today's patients have more concern on comfort. So this is because the digital impressions are associated with reduced invasiveness. So 88% of studies show that clinicians also choose digital impressions. And again, it's just easier to use, and it just provides the patient more comfort. So it reduces working time and increases, patient comfort. So we live in a world now in present society where everyone is looking at a screen on their phones and computers for information and wanting interaction. So by seeing their oral condition almost instantly in the virtual world, patients will be able to communicate effectively with you and more likely to move forward with treatment plans. So better education from seeing high resolution oral conditions. They have a better visual understanding of the treatment plans when you have them in front of them on a screen. Patient interactive healthcare. So a lot of the tools that you use to engage your patients that are included with the software give the patients a more interactive feel to their treatment. And as mentioned, when patients are able to see the detail of their teeth in front of them, they are normally quite intrigued to see their own teeth in realistic colors. Whereas it's more difficult to recognize your own teeth as a model. So this can improve your treatment acceptance. So some of the apps that are included in the scanning software. So for example, this one here, I've got a Smile Design. So Smile Design helps create a 2D mock-up. So it is great for your aesthetic cases and allows you to send a reference to your lab to then create a 3D mock-up with your scan. So just communicating with your patients what they're after, and also giving your knowledge and your insight into what you can achieve, and showing them exactly like this visually just gives you that little bit of a digital wow factor. So this is just another example of what you can do with some of these apps. This is a mock-up for dentures. Now, another app that's very popular amongst the scanners is a alignment simulation. So this helps engage patients towards orthodontic treatment and essentially simulates alignment from the scan that you've taken. So a couple of pointers are it enables doctors to give patients a realistic idea of what can be achieved. It sparks confidence and support in the decision-making of the treatment. Engage patients in superior features such as realistic scan colors and simulated bleaching. So some of the tools will allow, maybe some bleaching if it's an aftercare thing that you can then also provide to your patients after their alignment, is bleaching, which then you can show in some of the softwares that are available. These softwares, you can also interact with your patients. There are adjustment options with each tooth, and then you can present different views and treatment plans, simulation plans, I suppose, because it's not exactly a treatment plan, where you send it to your aligner company to give you a treatment plan. So this is essentially just a simulation and more of a communication tool to help treatment acceptance. Now, patient monitoring. So this is one of our really popular apps in the Trios scanner, which allows you to basically take scans of a patient at different times of their treatment, whether it be ortho, whether it be they're coming in for their regular checkup and clean every year. You can treatment plan them 1 year to have either fissure seals or, a night guard and things like that, but they refuse not to. They come back another year and you've scan them again. It shows any reduction, any recession, any extra wear, because you can compare it to older scans that you've taken. So with patient monitoring and other softwares that are like this, seeing is believing for patients, and patients seeing their own scan can change, and the changes that are visualized in front of them can be very impactful. And it is a very personalized communication with the dentist and how you can help them with your treatments. And it's not just, you trying to sell your treatment, but it's actually engaging in the education of them. So normally in your office, like I said, you want to create that wow factor by patients saying yes more often, where you can show them a visual comparison and what the changes you can make are to their teeth. So the world of digital impression. So not only can you, of course, do all of those things within clinic, when you get further into the digital world, you can do your own designs, you can do your own mock-ups, you can put in your CBC TANs to plan your implant surgical guides. And again, you can put your CBC TANs to do your ortho planning. So you can send your scans into an ortho analyzer where it will give you, your Bolton analyses to help you providing that orthodontic treatment. And then, a lot of other design softwares are allowed you to create splints or even designing dentures as well when you get into more in depth into that world. So in the market, there are obviously a lot more intraoral scanners, but I suppose in the Australian market right now, these are currently the most top leading brands of intraoral scanners. So Trios, your Dentsply Sirona scanners, iTero, and your Medit, which have a few. Now, from that same survey that the Institute of Digital Dentistry did out of the 1,072 clinicians, the main reasons for purchasing an intraoral scanner, the top two were recommendations by colleagues and also accuracy of the system. So going into accuracy, this is an independent case study that was done in 2021, which compares the accuracy of 10 intraoral scanners. They had a printed model, which was the control, and scanned the model 5 times with each of those intraoral scanners. So each of those were then measured and recorded any differences from the printed model that was measured with a vernier caliper. So essentially, based on those graphs and the readings, anything that's closest to 0 is the closest to trueness. And you can see, the Trios scanners were at the top 4 of the accuracy on that case study. Now, if you're looking at more of the treatment case studies, we also have a website that includes a lot of Australian dentists that have done case studies for us with, implants, restorative, a lot of your aesthetic cases, even your denture cases, digital denture workflows, and the different types of workflows you can get into with starting with your intraoral scanner and digital dentistry. Now, choosing the right intraoral scanner. So adopting the right intraoral scanner in your dental practice can bring you a number of benefits that I've mentioned to help, streamline your workflow, provide a better patient experience, and increase treatment acceptance and grow your dental practice. So just to reiterate. Now, accuracy. So the quality of your scan will determine the accuracy of the work you receive from the lab. So the ideal scanner precisely captures micro details to ensure the highest quality work, from clear aligners to night guards, crowns and bridges, and even your dentures. So how good is it at knowing what to scan and what not to scan as well? Software and speed. So software capability and speed, it can differ significantly from scanner to scanner. But that will matter because software powers the scanner, directly impacting the performance as well. So the ideal scanner will have minimal lag time between scanning and loading images on the screen. But an important thing you also want to consider is how user-friendly is the interface. Are there too many functions or buttons? Features that you might not need? Does the software look clean and concise, or is it too cluttered? So software, things like that are what you need to look for in that. So ease of use. So, the best dental digital scanners are user-friendly. So, how easy is it for you to pick up the scanner in your hand? How does it feel in your hand? Does it fit comfortably in the patient's mouth? What type of tips do they currently have? Is the software interface intuitive and aligned with the workflow and the type of work that you want to do, and the simplicity of how the use of the software is. Now, service and support. So some of the best scanners on the market will have ongoing subscription plans. So some things to consider are what type of subscription models are available for them, what is their service level agreement in relation to training, services and repairs, and how does your reseller or your supplier manage those? And is there a warranty that's covered under those? Lab connectivity. So I believe all scanners on the current market will allow you to export your digital files and then send them to all of the labs, because they normally accept all scans. But a direct connection to your favorite labs will, of course, provide more efficient and simpler workflows. So will your specific preferred lab also accept scans from the scanner you choose? Now, I know RACE accepts all files from any scan, but some other aligner companies may not. And then, of course, price. High quality scanners these days are definitely at a lower price point than once they were. Of course, the biggest drawbacks are, your initial cost and ongoing subscriptions. However, like any substantial investment in equipment, the initial challenges are outweighed by the long-term benefits in productivity, especially with the development of intraoral scanners and the available software these days. So a part of us in also what we have at 3Shape is we've got a Trios return on investment calculator. So what this will do is you put in all your details and it'll ask you how much you spend on lab work, what your lab fees are, your impression materials and things like that. And it'll give you a side-by-side comparison on the costs and profits of your analog versus digital impression workflows. Number 2 is you see break even and case acceptance rates increase due to the engagement apps. So the software apps that are included in the Trios scanner. And then you can also, share those results with others as a part of our calculator. So I'm coming to now the end of my presentation, where if you do have some questions for me that I'm happy to answer. So if Marissa has some that have come up at all, but if not.
Thanks for that, Shirley. We did have someone asking about the changing in technology. Obviously, you showed us before that independent study that would have been prior to the Trios 5, I'm guessing, the timeline on that one. Yeah. So,
I don't have any case studies. So 3Shape, we are still working on case studies that include the Trios 5 that are coming out soon. Obviously this was before I was able to share them, so I was only able to share what I've got out there. But there are some that are coming out, and I'm happy to send them to whoever's asked that question as well.
Fantastic. So obviously, as you touched on, you have been a dental assistant in the past as well. You've used a lot of scanners. Is there any real tip that would be your top tip that you would give to anyone starting out with a scanner?
Just practice. I know new things are daunting, but as long as you just practice how to scan, all new things just take time. If you're going to obviously invest in something like this, you want to spend the time in being as proficient as you can in it. And once you do become super proficient at it, and it is possible, it just elevates your experience and it elevates your patient experience as well in dental.
Absolutely. And well, as I said at the start, Shirley is a former colleague of ours. She's used to do
so
a
you've
lot
recognized
of training.
Me now moved over.
That's it. The famous voice from our scanning videos and whatnot.
And
we're thrilled we're still, yeah, that's it. We're very thrilled we'll still be able to work closely with Shirley now that she's part of the 3Shape team. So this video will become available online on demand on our website if you'd like to go back to it at some point. You might not be quite ready right now to do any sort of further research on scanners, but it will be available. And our team here at Raise Dental, we do have digital support staff. Always happy to talk to you about what your needs are, whether that's upgrading something you have or completely new to the world of scanning. Let us know. So thank you again, Shirley, and thank you everyone for coming today.
No worries.
I'm pretty confident you'll have Matt Race back for episode 25. He's just off having some family time at the moment. But thank you, and we certainly hope to see you online joining us again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.